Hey everybody, did you know you can go to colinmullen.com in order to get art and art prints? It's why the website exists. Eventually, I'll remember to upload some of the ones that are kind of backlogged, but they'll be there eventually. colinmullen.com. That's where I put my art when I remember to. So hey everybody, let's talk about this painting real quick and then we'll get into today's topic. So this painting is from a game called Receiver 2. It's obviously the sequel to Receiver 1. Receiver 1 was a game jam game and it had a whole bunch of potential, but just, they didn't have enough time to actually work out the idea that they really wanted to make. And I feel like Receiver 2 is... what if Receiver 1 had a full development cycle rather than, attempting to be made in a quickie game jam? And it really makes Receiver 1 feel like a prototype for Receiver 2. So if you don't have either, I'd highly recommend picking up Receiver 2. I feel like Receiver 1 is a little bit redundant now because of that, but that is not a knock on either game. It's just, you've got limits on what you can do in a very short amount of time, and I appreciate the game for what it is. It is difficult, it is punishing, it is interesting, it's got a lot of really unique world building, really cool game, and if you like shooting games where you run around and you shoot the guys with the guns, it's the most that a game can be in the highly technical way that it exists. So I think it's rad. Not everyone's going to. Maybe watch some of the VODs that I've done, see if it's your kind of jam, and go from there. But anyway, I've talked too long about the game. It's beautiful. You should take a look at it, regardless, whatever. Anyway, let's talk about today's thing. So crop rotation is a really complex subject, it turns out. I looked into it some just to make sure that I could make some decent allegories for the sake of this video, but I can't. So, but... let me, as someone who's not a farmer, though we are trying to grow, vegetables and stuff in our apartment, I'm not a farmer, so take this with a grain of salt. The idea of crop rotation is that certain plants take nutrients out of the soil. For instance, they may need more nitrogen than another plant, and certain plants in the similar family are going to require similar nutrients, and so if you keep trying to plant garlic in the same area over and over and over again, you're going to sap all of the nitrogen. I don't know enough about planting to be able to tell you what they need, but anyway, they'll sap all of the nutrient that they need out of the soil to the point that it basically just cannot grow that type of plant or similar types of plants for some time until it's revitalized, until you switch it out. And so a way to get around this, a way to fix that problem, is to switch out the plants that you're planting in areas. And this is mostly an industrial farming thing from what I read, but I don't know enough about. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's not relevant to this discussion whatsoever. I think regardless of the real world implications of crop rotation and that sort of thing, it doesn't really matter. The important bit is that I feel like there's this constant issue with artists and other creative people that they can't think of new ideas. They're like, I really want to paint, I'm in the mood to paint, but I can't think of any new ideas. And I've talked about it in the past that, you should, ways of coming up with new ideas for when you absolutely need to, when you have a show coming up and you don't have enough paintings for it yet, etc., etc. I'll link those at the end card. But I think this idea of mental crop rotation is a good one because you may be just plumbing that depth too often. You may be overusing, you may be getting stuck into that mindset, and it may be useful for you to instead mix things up. This is something I've inadvertently done. I have to come up with stuff for, stream and YouTube videos and art and music when I actually remember to write new songs, which is always something in the back burner. And, inadvertently it gives you that whole multifaceted thing. But more importantly, it's just like something may not be viable for me to do as a thing for when I'm streaming and making jokes, but it may work for a arcade video. It may work for a painting. It may not be a subject that is appropriate for one or the other, or doesn't work quite well for one or the other, but it works really well for the other. And I only thought of it because I was switching between the two, because I was not just trying to do the same thing over and over and over again. And that may mean to switch your materials, that may mean to switch your complete whatever you're doing, like I was saying there. Just by having multiple different avenues of things that you're doing, you may just find that, hey, I can think of new ideas, I can come up with new stuff just by switching things out every now and then. If you're feeling burned out, it's because you're working too hard in one direction and you're overstressing yourself, and that's not good if you're doing it creatively, especially if you're doing it for fun. So try and relax. You know, part of crop rotation sometimes is not just switching the plants out, but also just letting the soil go untilled for a while. It just, you know, grows weeds and it grows whatever, and then those weeds are cultivated and thrown back into the soil. I don't think that's the right term, but whatever. Sometimes it just needs to relax, and sometimes that's what you need to do, if at all possible for you. You need to have time where you do something fun that makes you think, that's whatever for you, but you know, you can still relax, you can still think of it creatively, but it's not like a creative endeavor in, I don't know how where I'm going with this. My point is that you need to relax, and you need to kind of switch up the stuff that you're working on, the kind of stuff that you're thinking about fairly often, else you will find yourself getting stuck. You will find yourself having artist block. I've talked about it in the past on how you can get around art block, but I think that's enough for this video. I do want to quickly shout out everyone on Patreon at the $5 or more tier. The world is in a really awful, weird place right now, and so I very much do appreciate the support of you guys on Patreon. However, if it becomes like not manageable for you, don't overstress yourself. In the meantime, thank you for your support. It really does mean a lot to me that I can do this for a living, that, you know, I can do art and talk about art and do streams and all of that. So just thank you for watching this video, for one thing. But let's thank the people at the $5 or more tier, because they are the people who are paying to make sure this thing stays around. And, you know, I promised them that I would do that. So anyway, thank you to the following people, starting with Watfu. Thank you, Watfu. Thank you, Top Houndor. Thank you, Spiral. Thank you, Spencer Kane. Thank you, Punkster. Thank you, Flenixia Theoran. Thank you, Orthogonal Caster. Thank you, Mortibus. Thank you, Micah. Thank you, Maliciousness. Thank you, Lost Nevada. Thank you, Kayla Hollinger. Thank you, Holgen. Thank you, Geizazan. Thank you, Duxu. Thank you, Chiptune Glitch. Thank you, Cappy Rose. Thank you, Bep. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Adam Kearney. And thank you, Ants! That feels good. If you want me to read your name at the end of the video and you have the money to throw around, I would appreciate it. Just go to patreon.com/RevScarecrow and donate $5 or more. A bunch of other rewards in the Patreon there, but either way, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, let me know. If you didn't, let me know. Either way, I'll see you in about 2 weeks, and we'll do it again. Bye.